Welcome to the Bookbuilder Masterclass. If you are a coach, a consultant, a business owner, or an entrepreneur, I'm going to tell you why writing your book is the most important thing you can do to really build your business and take it to the next stage. I'm Lucy Makara. I'm the founder of Rethink Press, the founder of the Business Book Awards. I'm the author of 13 books myself, and I am the UK's most experienced business book mentor. I founded Rethink Press 10 years ago in 2011 with my business partner, Joe Gregory. And over that time, we have built it from what started out literally as a two-person business, me and Joe doing absolutely everything, to an international team of 45 and more publishing experts, from coaches and writers to editors, designers, and publishers. And we are the biggest hybrid publisher of business books in the UK. And we publish around 70 books a year, and we've published over 500 books by experts, entrepreneurs, and business leaders like you. And we count our success by the way our authors are able to use the books that we produce for them to build their businesses. And I want to introduce you to some of our authors. You can see a lot of them there, but I want to introduce you specifically to some of them as we go through this masterclass. So today I am going to tell you why nothing sells you like a book. I'm going to talk about mistakes to avoid that are commonly made when people start writing their book, and the right way to plan and write a book that is the right book for you right now, that will go out and build your business for you. And I'm going to invite you to join our next 90-day book builder program to get your book written. So here we have two of our authors who have really built their businesses with the books that they've written and published. So at the top, we have Fadela Hilali, who is an eating disorder specialist. And she's written a brilliant book called Stuffed: How to Feel So Good About Yourself You Won't Have Room for Cake. Now, Fadela was a one-to-one coach before she wrote her book. But when she wrote and published her book, it gave her a platform to go out and build her business. And she's now an international corporate consultant on wellness more generally. So the fact that she had one specialization in the first place and wrote her book around that has not stopped her growing her business in all sorts of ways. And the book has really been an entree to the international corporate world. Below Fadela, we have Neil Fahy, who is a multi-gold medal winning Paralympian. He's a cyclist, and he has visual impairment. And Neil, because of this, didn't think that he would ever be able to write a book, but he worked with us, he worked with our coaches, and we helped him structure his book. He found the right software and wrote his book. And now Earn Your Stripes goes out and sells him also as an international business consultant, talking about his leadership model that's based on his sports experience. And he says he is equally proud to be an Amazon #1 best-selling author as he is to be a gold medal award-winning Paralympian. So why would I say that nothing sells you like a book? Well, I'm going to give you 4 reasons that I can be absolutely sure will happen when you write your book based on my experience. So the first one is, even if nobody else ever reads your book, which of course I'm not advocating, but just the act of structuring your book and writing 30 to 40,000 words about your knowledge, your business experience, your market expertise will give you a huge amount of added clarity about your business, about your practice, about what you do and how you do it. And also writing it all out in those 30 to 40,000 words will produce a kind of archive that goes into your head and gives you massive confidence wherever you are about who you are and what you do. It means that you have an archive of content that you can repurpose as keynotes, as workshops, as talks, as courses, all sorts of things, as blog posts. And you are never at a loss when you're asked a question, when you're pitching, because you have written it all out. It's all there in your head, ready to respond to any situation. So clarity and confidence is something you will gain without question when you write your book. Secondly, your authority will be boosted like nothing else. A book is just an archetypal icon of expertise, of authority. It says when you have a book with your name on the cover as the author, it simply says you are the expert in your field. And it also spreads your influence in a way that nothing else does. Yes, of course, you can make videos, you can write blog posts, you can have a podcast, all sorts of other ways of getting your influence out there. But actually, the way a book is distributed and goes around the world and talks to people in different formats, in print, in ebook, in audiobook format, gets your influence and your knowledge out there in ways that you can scarcely imagine until it happens. And thirdly, and this is really the big one for most business owners, when you send a book or get a book into the hands of your prospects, of your ideal clients, it acts as your undercover sales agent. So there is something about a book that is just really special and valuable. A book is not a business card. A book is not a marketing brochure. A book is not a business pitch. It is a piece of value, an iconic object in its own right, but it goes out there. The kind of books that we help our authors to write go out there and sell them as an undercover sales agent because they are full of value. They say all the things that you need to tell your ideal clients. It speaks to them in your voice. It is a solid entity. It is when you can't go out and meet them yourselves. It's a physical entity that you can get into their hands, and it brings your ideal clients back to working with you. It is the best sales agent you will ever have. And fourthly, if you are looking to become more visible, if you want to get more speaking gigs, if you want to feature on podcasts, if you want the media to use you as an expert or a pundit, then having a book to your name, being a published author, will make that so much easier. So the media often go to Amazon as that great search engine to see who they can find as experts to comment on different subjects. And if you haven't written your book, you won't be on Amazon. It's a brilliant search engine, but only for people who have actually written their books. If you get your books into the hands of people who create industry gigs, who run podcasts, you will show them that you are someone with value to give, and they will very easily pick you up and want to work with you. And those four things are all very solid and typical things that happen to our authors when they write their book and get it published. But there's something else that happens too. And because it's slightly unpredictable as to what it will be, I call it book magic. So we often have phone calls or calls from our authors where they go after their book's been published. It might be 6 weeks, it might be 6 months, but it will always happen. And they start the conversation usually something like, "You'll never guess what's happened." And we'll say, "No, we won't. No, we don't. Tell us what's happened." And they tell us stories of being in touch with people they've admired for many years, of clients they never thought they could get, of international speaking trips, all expenses paid they've been on, of being invited onto prestigious committees. And for every author who publishes a book with us, it happens at some point, some piece of magic that only happens because of their book. And once we had an author who came back to us after 6 months in a terrible state, saying, "You've got to help me. My book has gone out there and my business has doubled in 6 months and I don't know what to do about it." So that was a bit of a first world problem and we sorted him out. But that's the kind of thing that happens, that is entirely predictable. It will happen to you when you write your book. But I can't tell you what your particular piece or pieces of book magic will be. So if it's really clear that all these benefits happen when you write a book, why don't most people do that? And sometimes it seems when we're in the entrepreneur space that actually everybody is writing a book, but the fact is they don't. It's still a very small amount of people who actually get their book written and out there, and a good book written and out there. And why does this happen? Because for many people, and you may be one of them, you're the absolute expert in your field. But when it comes to writing a book, you don't know where to start. Many people simply don't know where to start. So lots of really excellent books stay in people's heads and do not get out onto the page. Secondly, they make a huge mistake in not doing rigorous planning before they start writing, which is so important. They just dive into the writing and think, oh, I know my stuff. I will just get into the flow and pour it all out onto the page and it will all go fine, and the book will take shape. And usually that doesn't happen at all. Not planning before you write is a big mistake, and often results in would-be authors becoming absolutely overwhelmed by the writing. They get a couple of chapters in and then suddenly it feels like this big amorphous task where there's writing to do and editing and rereading and checking and researching and proofreading. And it just feels like, you know, what order does this come in? Where do I do? How do I do what, when? And so many people start writing without planning and become overwhelmed and stop, and the book still doesn't happen. Another reason people do not get their book finished is because they try and work alone. And I know we all have this this image of the creative writer sitting alone in their garret, working away, getting in the flow, being creative, producing some sort of work of art. But that is not how good business books get written. It's a real error to think that this is something you can do on your own, especially with your first book, because then you have no one to act as a sounding board, no one to support you, no one to keep you accountable, and nobody to tell you if you're on the right track. And another reason, a final reason that people don't write their book and get it out there working for them is it feels like it's a big risk. And it's true that you are going to have to spend time and you are probably going to have to spend money getting your book published. And people also think there's a risk that their book won't be good enough. What if they invest time and money and emotion into their book, and then nobody reads it, or it doesn't do the work that it should do? It doesn't go out and build their business. Well, actually, that is the wrong way to look at it, because the risk is not what if I do write my book, but what if I don't write my book? And here are two authors, both of whom nearly didn't write their book. At the top, we have Sapna Piru, who is an amazing brand consultant. She works with small businesses and creates wonderful branding for them that really enhances their business. And she has all the knowledge and expertise in the world, but she panicked about writing a book. She thought that perhaps branding was so visual, such a visual thing, that it wouldn't work in word format as a book. And she really was worried. She really had imposter syndrome about being able to get a good book out there. But she did write her book and she did get it published. And the first piece of book magic that happened almost within a few weeks of her having published was that she entered it in the Business Book Awards and she won one of the category awards for that year, for the Business Book Awards 2020. And her book, Let's Get Visible, has made Sapna and her business incredibly much more visible. She has had the best year ever, and her book has really gone out there and sold her and positioned her as the leading brand expert in her field. If she hadn't written it, if she hadn't taken that risk, her business would still be a lot smaller. She'd be working a lot harder for less reward. Below Sapna is Mark Escott, a man who had a very, very difficult youth. Mark was in care. He was thrown out of many schools. He was a troublemaker as a young boy, and he ended up in prison. And when Mark came out, he decided that he would turn his life around. And one of the things that happened to him was that he discovered one of the reasons he'd found school and education so difficult was that he was very, very dyslexic. But Mark still managed to start an organization called One More Life Chance that helps other young people who are in the position that he was. But he didn't think he could write a book because of his dyslexia. But Mark came to one of my workshops and he realized that more than anything, he wanted to put his story and his expertise into a book. So he worked with our coaches, created his book, published it, and he has got his book out there. And Mark tells this story as part of the way he inspires people to say, if I thought I couldn't write a book and I did, then you can too. And Mark's piece of book magic was that he was sitting on a train on the way back from a training workshop he was giving and started talking to a woman who was sitting opposite him, told her a bit about his business. And of course, being a published author, he had a few of his own books with him, so he gave her a copy. She took it away and got in touch with him later. It turned out that this was his MP, and she had read his book, was so impressed with what he was doing that she's been amazingly helpful for his business. And again, the book has been a really massive help and tool for Mark Escott to build his business. And what would have happened if he hadn't written his book? So how do you write the right book and not make the mistakes that I've spoken about? So firstly, and most importantly, where we start when we help authors write books is to position your book exactly to your market. Don't be uncertain about this. Be very, very clear what your market is and position your book to speak to that market directly. That doesn't mean it won't speak to other people, and other people beyond your ideal clients won't get value from it. They will. But for your book to go out and bring back business to you, you need to position it to your market. You also need to understand that there's a process to planning a book and to writing a book, and that you have to break it into manageable chunks. And this is what we do on Bookbuilder. We have been working with authors in this way for 8 years or more. And we have a process that breaks the whole planning and writing of a book down into short sections that are entirely manageable. And so it never becomes overwhelming. And also, when you write your book in a group of like-minded people and with coaching and mentoring support, you have other people supporting you, you have experts supporting you, you have accountability, and you get your book written to a schedule, to a time scale, along with other people who are all going through the same process with you. And that makes it as easy and actually as fun as it can be. And I'm not saying that writing a book is ever easy and it's or plain sailing. There are ups and downs through the process always. But when you're with a group of people all working on the same project and with experts who know this and have been through it all before, it makes it, that is the easiest and the best way to get your book written. So working with experts who have done it before is really key as well, because they recognize how you are going to react in certain situations, the ups and downs of the process, and are there to support you the whole way through. So starting with positioning your book to your market, we have a process that we call the 3 Ps of position that we work through in depth as the first step. It's the first training session that we do on Bookbuilder. And it sounds very simple, but actually there's a lot of in-depth work to it to get this right. But it's absolutely vital to getting the right book for you out there. And the 3 Ps are, firstly, person, identifying the person who is your ideal client and creating an avatar of that person that you have in your mind, and perhaps a picture of and a description of, while you are writing your book. So you are speaking directly to them in the language they want to hear from you that will be appropriate and understandable to them, and in a way that targets your ideal client directly. The second P is pain. The pain that all your ideal clients are experiencing when they come to you for a solution to their problem or an answer to their question or relief to their pain. They have some problem that they need solving and that you have the answer to. And if you can identify that pain very clearly so that they know that you understand them, that you empathize with them, and that you can solve their problem, that is essential to position your book correctly. And the third P is promise, your book's promise. What will your ideal client achieve by the time they have finished reading your book? What does your book promise them that nothing else they have found so far does? And when you've identified that really clearly, not only do you have a book that's perfectly positioned to your market that will attract your ideal clients back to work with you, you also have the making of a brilliant title and subtitle that will sell your book, tell your ideal clients that your book is for them, and summarize what people are going to get from your book, that will show them the promise that they are going to get from reading your book. And this is how you get the right book written for you, for your market, to go out there and bring back your ideal clients to work with you in your business. So your book is all about getting your information to your ideal client, who will come back to you for implementation, and you will create for them the transformation that is part of the promise of your book. So here on the left, we have Mock O'Keefe, whose ideal client is tech companies who want innovation. His book is called The Innovation Ecosystem, and his was so perfectly positioned that he was asked by Google to come and speak on their platform. And that, of course, introduced him to many, many ideal clients. And his book has really built his business for in terms of thousands of pounds worth of client work that he's got from it. And yet below that, Alison Warner has a totally different client base. Her ideal client is a tradesperson, a plumber, an electrician, a builder. She is a coach or consultant to the trades who are very good at what they do, but not necessarily that great at running a business. And she really doubted whether her ideal client would actually read a book, would find that it would be a useful thing to do to help them with their business. But because she identified their pain and understood what she needed to promise them, she wrote the book that was absolutely perfectly positioned. And actually it sells very well as going out there and bringing back her clients to work with her. So two very different authors with very different ideal clients and markets, who simply used our 3 Ps of position to position their books perfectly to bring back clients, to grow their businesses. So the other essential thing that I mentioned is planning before you start writing. And what you see here on the left is not actually a pin board with cards stuck on it. It is actually our bespoke book planning software called My Book Plan. And it is in fact based on using actual physical cards, which we also have done and built our system, our book planning system on that. But we have software on Bookbuilder. You work with your coach individually in building your structure of your book before you start writing. And when I say structure and planning, I don't mean a rough chapter outline that you then have to write and fill in all the gaps. It is planning your book in such detail, as you can see here, that every chapter has every section outlined, case studies, anecdotes, top tips, all the content and the different kinds of content that you absolutely must have in a good business book is planned out before you start writing. And we spend the first 3 half-day sessions on Bookbuilder, getting your book positioned and planned in detail, and then you write it up as a piece of homework that is marked by your individual coach. On the right here, we have 2 great book planners. So Monica Orr at the top is an expert in the hospitality industry. And she knew from the start that she wanted to write 3 books. And she planned them out in advance in great detail and wrote them on a yearly basis for 3 years. And her books have been absolutely instrumental in positioning her as one of the top international experts in the hospitality industry. And she goes around the world talking about her expertise and the star quality experience that is her business, and also the title of her books. Below her, we have Rob Waite. Robin Waite was one of those authors who actually got such clarity when he was writing his book that it caused him to pivot and grow his business simply from unpacking more knowledge than he thought he had in the first place. And he wrote his book and he grew his business, and he is a huge believer in the power of giving away books to bring in ideal clients. So Rob, as you can see, regularly orders many copies of his book, which he gives away. And he says the investment in giving away as many books as possible is what has built his business to the far, far greater size that it is today. And then when you start the writing process, it is essential to break it down into manageable chunks. And we have a system for writing called the writer process, which is an acronym. W is for write your first draft. R and I are review and improve, and that is your first self-edit. T is for test, when you send your book out in a very strategic way to beta readers to get feedback that will really make your book better. And then the final E is for edit, your final edit, incorporating that feedback. And then the last R is repeat as required. So by breaking it down into the manageable chunks over the 90 days of the Bookbuilder program, first, you position your book, and then you plan in detail, as I've said, and only then do we start the writing process with your first draft, which is the longest part of the whole program. Then you do your own first self-edit, which creates the second draft that you then send out to beta readers for a manuscript review. And then finally, you work on that with your second and last edit. So you have a final draft that is ready and perfect for publication. And at Rethink Press, we get in manuscripts, book manuscripts to publish, some of which have been through our coaching and mentoring process or the Bookbuilder program, and some of which come to us straight from authors who have already written their books. And we know from experience that the books that have been through this process, that have been written with the positioning and the planning and the writer process, are usually in much better shape than the ones that haven't. And just keep that between ourselves. So finally, getting support from experts is absolutely essential to write the book that you will get, that will return your investment in your time and money in the process that you put into it, so that you get back everything and a lot more. So our Booksmith team works on planning and coaching and ghostwriting, and also supports our authors through the Bookbuilder program with me as the mentor. And the Publish team has our amazing editors, designers, typesetters, and publishers. And together we bring out the most beautiful books, beautifully written, beautifully edited and polished, and beautifully produced, that work for our authors to bring that return on their investment and that ability to take your business to the next level. So at the top here, we have Susie Ramroop, who wrote a wonderful book called Be the Leader You Want to See. And Susie was somewhat anxious about the investment she was putting in of all sorts into her book. So she was very strategic. And as soon as she got her first 10 review copies, she sent them out to a list of ideal clients and asked them to read the book and then feed back to her. And actually what happened was that within 6 days of sending her first books out, she had more than covered all the costs in terms of getting work back from those ideal clients that she sent her book to. And since then, her business has grown exponentially, and she uses her book as that undercover sales agent that I talked about before. Below her, we have David Horn, who wrote a book called Add Then Multiply. David has a financial business, and he has used his book also incredibly strategically. And he says that his book has brought in literally hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of business to him. And he is doing incredibly well. And in fact, David was on the last Bookbuilder program and is about to bring out his second book. So he clearly knows the value of investing in writing and publishing a great book. So this is why we say that nothing sells you like a book, but it must be a good book. And now is a great time for you to write your book, to get it out there. But don't go it alone. And you can get it done quicker than you think. You can get your book written in 90 days and published in another 3 months. So if you join our next Bookbuilder program, 6 months after it starts, you could be a published author. So what do we do on the 90 days of Bookbuilder? Well, before we get started, we send you a fantastic Bookbuilder success box. And in that box, you have a paperback copy of Bookbuilder, the book. You have a beautiful hardback Bookbuilder planner, which is designed to really help you and support you through the writing, the planning and writing process. But we also have digital resources for you too. So if you're not somebody who necessarily likes writing by hand, you can use that planner in an interactive digital format too. And of course, you get an ebook of Bookbuilder. You get a box of physical Bookbuilder planning cards, which you can use in conjunction with or instead of with the My Book Plan software that you will have an account with. You have a writer process poster and pen. And among other resources, we also give you a manuscript template on Bookbuilder. So your book is kind of half written before you actually get started. You put your structure into it, and then really you're just filling in the gaps. So it makes it as easy as it possibly can be to write your book. And then on the Bookbuilder program itself, we start in the first week with 3 half-day intensive group workshops where we go through the positioning and planning of your book, using our software, using our tools like the 3 Ps of position. You work with me in the big group. And then you also have breakout groups, smaller groups, where you work with your group coach, and you also have individual one-to-one time with your coach, and you write up your book introduction and your very detailed contents page as homework after that first week. And this is reviewed by your coach, so you get feedback, you know exactly where you are, and you get you work on your title and subtitle, so you are in the perfect position after the second week of the Bookbuilder program to start writing your book. And at that point, you are able to access 8 recorded coaching sessions, which take you through the writer process step by step. And I will tell you when to listen to each of those. But if you get ahead of the game, you can listen to them. You can access them whenever you want to. And they tell you exactly how to take each step of the process. And we have every fortnight, we have a 1-hour accountability call on Zoom with the group where you can ask any questions. I get everybody to feedback and tell me what's happening, share their problems, share their wins, talk to each other, talk to me. And we also have, in the weeks in between that, we also have mastermind sessions from experts, really amazing experts, who will tell you about how to build your business and your book through their other areas of expertise. So every week there is a live session that will help you to get your book written. And then the Bookbuilder program is based around a private Facebook group for each cohort of the program, and that is where the community lives, where all your where everybody takes part, where there are weekly catch-up posts where everybody can ask questions and share where they're up to, and where all the content lies, the coaching sessions, where Facebook Lives take place. And over that 90 days, you will grow and develop with your cohort, and your book will take shape, and you will be amazed at how you can indeed write your book in 90 days on the Bookbuilder program. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being with me on the masterclass. I really hope we're going to work together to get your book written, and I look forward to seeing you on the next Bookbuilder program.